Hello, my name is Will Dean. I am the forest author. I call myself the forest author because I'm an author and I live in a forest. And when I say I live in a forest, I really live in a forest. I live in Sweden. This is Sweden. I live in by Swedish standards, this is not a big forest, but by my standards, this is a big forest. And I live right at the center of it in a little swampy clearing. Hence forest author. But you're very welcome here. This is hopefully a nice place to be. Today I'm going to be talking about how to be bold as a writer. So how to be bold as a writer. Whether it's important to be bold, whether you give yourself permission to be bold. Hello. It's good to see you. All is well here. This is my shack. That is my bar. That is my desk. And there is my log burner that keeps this place warm. Being bold as a storyteller. Is this important? Is this a consideration? I would say that if you are at the stage where you're having ideas about stories and you're worried that they are too bold, they are too out there, they're too difficult to write, that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk through this. Because at some point, if you want to be a commercially successful author, if you want to have your books published and read, then if your book is too bananas, that might not happen. It might not happen. Your book needs to be interesting to enough people for it to be commercially published. At the same time, if your book is a bit crazy, a bit weird, that can be a really good thing. So do not be afraid to break boundaries and do things that have not been done before. It's about taking a story which is slightly out there, but still enjoyable to readers. If it's too out there, if you're not using any punctuation or any vowels, don't write that book, don't write that book. Then you might have trouble. If you're writing a book and it's got 500 characters, it's unlikely to just work as a narrative structure. It's unlikely to work. If you're writing a book and not a single thing happens, the whole thing is the dude lying in bed for 100,000 words, it's not likely anybody else, apart from you, maybe your mum, are going to want to read that. But if you are writing a book which does have a good structure and does have a good narrative arc, and it does have interesting characters, and there aren't 500, but there are 10, and there's one main character or two main characters. But there's some element of the story which is strange, some element of the story which is groundbreaking. That sounds good to me. That sounds really exciting to me. By way of example, I want to talk a little bit about The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, which is a book written by a good friend of mine, Stu Turton. If you know Stu, lucky you, because Stu is a great guy. He's a very, very funny guy, a crazy funny guy, really, really funny and warm and lovely guy. He's a good man, and he's a great writer. So he wrote The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, which has been a big success, and it is a very strange book. It's a kind of a crime novel and a thriller, but it's also kind of science fiction and kind of weird and kind of historical, and it's about body hopping and it breaks so many rules. It really does. And, you know, the agent who signed him was brave, and the editor who bought the book was brave, but they made the right call because so many readers love his work. And so many readers are excited about his next book that's coming out. So being bold paid off for Stu and his team. And I'm so happy it did, because as I say again, he's a good man. It's good to be bold. It's good to break boundaries. If you think about train spotting, Irvine, Welsh, I read that book when I was about 15. I was working in a fruit farm in the East Midlands. I was working on a hill. If you picture a hill like this, all around was strawberry fields, raspberry canes and that kind of thing. And I was the person responsible for selling this soft fruit. I wasn't very good at my job. I didn't really understand how the till worked. I wasn't very technical. And so I kind of had to weigh the fruit and make up a number that sounded reasonable to me, how much this fruit would cost, factor in a bit of a discount, if they were nice. I wasn't good at what I did. But the good thing about that job was, when it was sunny, I was busy. But when it was bad weather, I was just sitting in a hut in the fresh air on a hill reading. And I used to read a book every 2 days. I remember I read Frankenstein and Trainspotting back to back. That was a good week. That was an amazing week. That was kind of a life-changing week for me, actually, as an author, as a storyteller, because those two books blew me away, both of them, for lots of different reasons. But Trainspotting, bold book. And Frankenstein is a hugely bold book, especially considering when it was written. Mary Shelley, hats off. But let's focus on Trainspotting for a second. The whole thing is bold. Right? It's about heroin addicts. It's full of humor. It's full of incisive social commentary. It's full of drama. It's full of love between these friends, these characters. And it's written in Scottish dialect, like Edinburgh dialect. Phonetically, it's breaking a rule there, because most agents and editors will say don't go too heavy into dialect and accent. Drop a few hints about where the character's from. Well, Mr. Welsh did not drop a few hints. He went hard on the dialect. And it took me about 30, 40 pages, I remember, as a 15-year-old, to work out what was going on. I did not get it. I did not understand anything. And for some reason, I kept going. And then suddenly it clicked. And suddenly I understood every single word. And I was in so deep from that point. That book is bold on so many levels. And that's in part what makes it an incredible book. Think about American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. How bold that book is. How brutal and extreme that book is in so many ways. And that's what made it a huge success. It was very bold storytelling. Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi, one of my favorite novels of all time. Incredible book. So ambitious. It's a debut, okay? It's a debut. It's a slim novel. It's a debut. It starts off hundreds of years ago in the Gold Coast of West Africa, and it finishes up roughly in the present day in New York, in America. So it spans continents, it spans centuries. So many individual stories are told within one book that are all linked together. It breaks a lot of rules. It sounds like it should be 10 books in a series, and it's one fairly short book. It's incredibly bold and so powerful because it is bold. What I'm trying to say here is it's good to be bold. It's fine to be bold. As long as your book is going to be interesting to other people as well as yourself, it's good to be bold. It's okay to shock readers. It's okay to break rules. It's okay to do things that have not been done before, to melt genres together. If your storytelling is strong enough and the empathy shines through and the characters are believable, then you can do those things and you should not hold back. Be bold. Do not try and write something that's already been written 100 times before. Do your own thing and have confidence in your own storytelling. And I think that confidence comes from your imagination and from reading widely. Michel Faber, Under the Skin. Oh my goodness, I read this book for the first time a few years ago and I was blown away. Within one page, I was like, what is this? How can someone write this? What's going to happen? And then if anybody here has read the book, it gets progressively more amazing and unpredictable. I didn't see it coming. Amazing book. Very bold. Be bold, guys. Be bold. Do not be afraid to be bold. Life's too short. Go for it. I hope this has been helpful. Good to be back. Nice to be talking to you. Take care. Best wishes. Thank you. Bye-bye.